Wrestling is so nuts, you can watch a wrestler have their last match in a company and have absolutely no idea. Yep, all it takes is the house of cards to collapse and poof, they're just gone. So it is time to finally give these folk their dues. Hello, my name is Simon from What Culture. Please do hit that subscribe button. And this is the 10 precise moments TNA careers ended. Number 10, Christian Cage. I always enjoy doing an intro and then presenting the opposite experience, but hey, that's just how we roll. Christian was such a special case though, as not only did he get to say goodbye to TNA, he got to say goodbye to Impact too. It all started on the 13th of August 2021 episode of AEW Dynamite when Cage won the Impact World title from Kenny Omega. Damn Forbidden Door was wide open and causing a breeze. It didn't last long as Christian soon dropped it to Josh Alexander at Bound for Glory, and when they were done, both champion and challenger had a big old hug. They knew the deal, the journey had come to an end. If you're interested in how it finished in 2008, well, it was the most TNA thing ever. Kurt Angle had learned that Cage's contract was expiring and that he was heading back to WWE, so the main event Mafia beat him up. We may as well have just had an advert for Raw on the screen. Number 9, Bobby Roode. Try this the next time you see somebody who you think is a TNA fan. Just shout beer at the top of your lungs, and if they don't reply with money, you've made a terrible mistake, and they now think you're nuts. This, of course, is a reference to the tag team in the promotion consisting of Bobby Roode and James Strong, and when they lost a Valley of Shadows match to Decay at Sacrifice 2016, things didn't look good. I mean, that brawl was crazy to begin with, and due to the way TNA filmed its content, we already knew Roode was leaving, as he had announced it a month earlier. Whoops. He still got quite the send-off as Abyss chokeslammed him into some thumbtacks, and the entire faction just punished his ass. So fair play to Bobby. He went out in the tried and tested manner, and he did the honors as best he could. Still secretly hoping he gets one last push in WWE. The dude has so much to give. Number 8, Booker T. It was not the best evening for Booker T at TNA Bound for Glory 2009. He was involved in the Full Metal Mayhem tag match where he was teaming with Scott Steiner, and he got whooped so bad he was carted out on a stretcher. The craziest part is that this would be the last time we saw the master of the Spinneroonie, even though at the time he was one half of the tag team champions. But yes, his contract had expired and he was done, but nobody was overly aware of this, so in the story, he had basically been killed. Booker did return for a one-off house show in 2010 where he took on Rob Van Dam, and wouldn't you know it, soon afterwards he was back on Raw as a commentator, almost like that was his plan. Once again though, fair play to the book. He too went out on his ass. You have got to respect it. Number 7, Bully Ray. In 2015, Dixie Carter walked onto TNA TV and told us that we had a new general manager, and it was none other than Bully Ray. And then I think this lasted 3 weeks. Yep. Because that went down in July, and by August, Ray was shown backstage selling an attack, as we were all asked who was responsible for this. If it was meant to lead to a match, it never did, and days after this, the Dudley Boys were back on Raw. I am not kidding. It was so strange even if you were an avid watcher because there wasn't even a hint that this was going to happen. Bully just turned up to work for a month and then kind of decided he couldn't be bothered anymore. I'm worried that this wouldn't have been the first time. Number 6, Sting. Do you want to know reason number 456 why I love Sting? Well, here we go. In January 2014, the Stinger had decided it was time to walk away from TNA, so got put in a career versus title match against Magnus. It felt very much like the Icon wasn't going to win, but that would mean he was stepping away from the promotion, so the emotion was ready to explode. The fight itself was essentially a greatest hits for Sting, which I appreciated, and after Magnus had toppled the legend, he, EC3 and Dixie Carter stood over his fallen body as if they'd stolen all his wrestling energy and were now twice as strong. Much like others on this list, it was Steve Borden ensuring he put over as many people as possible on his way out, which just sums him up. No fuss, doing the right thing. He's a damn hero. Nobody would have minded if we had done a big celebration and thank you, Sting. But nope, that wasn't what he wanted, and his opponents benefited greatly because of it. Number 5, Drew McIntyre. Let's be honest here. When Drew McIntyre popped up in TNA for a cup of coffee, I don't think anybody thought he was going to be the WWE champion 3 years later. He was smashing it, don't get me wrong, but Drew Galloway in 2017 had been released, and it seemed like he was on a new path. He didn't have a good day when he took on Moose in an Impact Grand match because even though he was the champion, he wouldn't be after this. He was about to lose. It seemed obvious that everybody involved knew he was moving on, as this was sold as if it was the end of the world, although it did create quite the moment. Sad faces all around. Everything was going to be alright for Drew, however. A few months later, he was back in NXT, and he went on to do very good things. Before Gail Kim. Gail Kim's first retirement came in 2018 on an independent show in the UK, and as cool as that was, it was not fitting for somebody who had absolutely smashed it. She had been instrumental in moving women's wrestling forward, and given how much Kim had given to Impact, it seemed only right they could do something on that platform. Therefore, she returned to the ring for one night only at the Rebellion pay-per-view in 2019 to fight Tessa Blanchard, and as ever after a solid match, Gail did the honors, passed the torch, and strolled off into the sunset. Kim was clearly emotional after the fact, as was Tessa, and the embrace they shared afterwards was pretty powerful. Gail has remained with the company ever since in a non-wrestler role, and even though a bunch of people have asked her to return, as of yet she has resisted, and I have a feeling it may stay that way. Number 3, Samoa Joe. We just talked about some shows in the UK though, and it was on a TNA one where Samoa Joe did say goodbye to the promotion. It was on Impact on the 20th of March 2015 where he went toe-to-toe with Austin Aries. Due to that actually being filmed in January, in between those dates, Joe announced that he'd be leaving. The last thing we saw was Samoa sliding into the ring to chase away Rockstar Spud, who was celebrating winning the X Division title shortly after Joe's match was over, and given that the Samoan submission machine lost by DQ, he wasn't happy. This did feel a little bit anticlimactic given how important the man had been to the company, but like many on this list, a few months later, where did Joe pop up? NXT. Number 2, Kurt Angle. So this one is wild now, all things considered, but Kurt Angle last appeared on Impact in March 2016 where he was beaten by Bobby Lashley. Wrestling is bonkers. It certainly felt like Angle's plan was to go back to WWE after this, or at least that was the rumor, but instead he went and worked a bunch of indie dates before finally getting the call to be Raw GM a few months after. When you remember that his TNA run was longer than his one in WWE, you could have gone all out with this had you wanted to, but no. He lost, he went away, and that was that. Madness. Number 1, AJ Styles. As was this, because it was so stupid. AJ Styles is one of the first names that come to your head when you think of TNA, and he helped that promotion like crazy. He had been there since 2002 as well, so it was even more ridiculous that when we got to 2014, the powers that be didn't realize how important Styles was to everything. In terms of how it bowed out, it was on the 9th of January Impact in a title versus title match when quite literally everybody got involved to beat the crap out of Styles, so he lost. And again, that was that. We never saw him again. If that sounds weird, however, it's because there were backstage issues. Amazingly, Impact only offered AJ 60% of his current salary to stay, and surprisingly, he said no, went to New Japan, and smashed it so hard, he got hired by WWE and became the world champion. So this was one of the silliest contracts in wrestling history. Always know your worth. Do you want to talk about any other precise moments TNA careers ended? Make sure you let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Then head over to whatculture.com where you can read articles like this. Make sure you come follow us on social media at Simon316 and WhatCulture WWE. And listen, we have a lot of videos that need watching so they don't cry. Please help out. My name is Simon from What Culture. I am slowly losing my voice, which sucks when you have to do a voiceover, but damn it, I love it. Speak to you soon.